G'day everyone, welcome back to my weekly tipping video. As always, this preview is brought to you by PlayUp. If you are thinking of having a punt on the NRL this round, make sure it's through PlayUp, guys. But as always, please gamble responsibly. G'day guys, Clarkey here. Let's jump straight into my round 19 NRL tips. I'm really looking forward to this run. I do think this week there won't be too many surprises. I think that we should get a lot of the favourites getting up just because we are getting towards not quite the tail end of the season where we can get some upsets, but in that sort of, we're towards the end stage. We know who is at the top and we know who's towards the bottom. So starting off Thursday night, Seabus Super Stadium, the Parramatta Eels take on the Canberra Raiders. I do think the Raiders are capable of an upset here just because the Eels will be without Mitchell Moses, who is obviously out with a fractured back. But with that being said, the Eels did look really, really good last week against the Titans. I'd hate to think what could happen if they did have Junior Paulo and Mitchell Moses in that game. So with that being said, guys, I do think the Raiders are capable somewhat of an upset, but also a big out for them is obviously Xavier Savage. He was just starting to make himself sort of, known there, I suppose, at fullback. He was looking awesome, and they'll also be without Jack Whiten, which I think Jack Whiten to them is almost what Mitchell Moses is to the Parramatta Eels. So with all things being said, guys, in this one, I like the Parramatta Eels, guys. I'm probably going to tip the Parramatta Eels 13+. Friday night, 6 p.m. on the Sunshine Coast Stadium, the Sydney Roosters take on the Newcastle Knights. In this game, I really like the Sydney Roosters. I think the Knights have looked a little bit off in recent weeks, and without Mitchell Pearce there again, they have Phoenix Crossell named as the number 7. I think they will struggle. I think if the Knights were to have Kalen Ponga and Mitchell Pearce both in this side, then we would see a much more complete performance by the Knights. But because Mitchell Pearce is out, I believe he's really, really influential to this side, so I will go with the Sydney Roosters. I just think that they've looked a little bit more steady sailing this year, if you will, as opposed to the Knights, when they didn't look too bad against the Cowboys last round. It was picking up a win, whereas the Knights were absolutely smashed by the Storm. They were never in that game. 7:55 p.m. Both teams that versed the Knights and the Roosters last round, the North Queensland Cowboys take on the Melbourne Storm at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. I know it's a home game advantage there for the Cowboys, but every bit of me is leaning with the Melbourne Storm here. I don't need to explain this one too much, as the Melbourne Storm have won their last 14 straight, which is really, really unheard of. And for the Cowboys, they're without Valentine Holmes, as we know. But today, Hamiso Tabuai underwent an emergency surgery on his appendix to get that taken out. So he will miss the next 6 weeks, guys, which is huge as well for the club. I don't think if they were capable of an upset, they would need both of those there and in fine form, which they were prior to their injuries, but they're not there. So I'm with the Melbourne Storm there. I actually think the Storm will win by at least 20 points. Saturday, 3 p.m. on the Sunshine Coast Stadium, guys, the South Sydney Rabbitohs take on the New Zealand Warriors. I'm with the Rabbitohs in this one, guys. They sit in third. They've had a really, really good season, a really, really consistent season, whereas the Warriors have probably been a little bit up and down this year, and they do have a fair bit of change. Players coming in, players going out. It appears Roger Tuivasa-Sheck has not been named, so he is injured at the moment. We know that they've lost Tohu Harris to an ACL injury for the year. That's absolutely huge. Whereas for the Rabbitohs, majority of their changes are players like Latrell Mitchell and Jai Arrow coming back into the side, so they actually really do help the Bunnies there. So I'm with the Bunnies in this one, guys. I think they'll get it done. I'm going to go ahead and tip the Bunnies by 10 points. And I wouldn't be surprised if they won by more, actually. I wouldn't be surprised if they won by 20. 5:30 p.m. at Suncorp Stadium, the Manly Seagulls take on the West Tigers. I like the Seagulls in this one. Tom Trbojevic returns for them, as does Daly Cherry Evans, as does Josh Aloiai, who I think was really, really underrated prior to his injury. And then, since Josh Aloiai's gone off and gotten injured, think of the players that have really emerged at Manly. Martin Tapau's re-emerged with some career top form. Taniela Paseka is in fine form. Hamoli, I'm not going to try to pronounce that last name. I just call him Biggie Schmoll, in absolutely amazing form as well. Josh Schuster, amazing form, and Jake Trbojevic, he's never out of form. And then you throw someone like Josh Aloiai coming off the bench with Sean Keppie, who is in great form, and Sipley. I think this could be a really, really bad game here for the West Tigers. I could see Manly winning this by 40 points. I could see this being a blowout score. Unfortunately for the Tigers fans, I don't think this one will be close. And that's just from what we've seen from Manly in recent games. They are absolutely dominant when they have their full-strength side. Believe they scored 32 points. It was 32 points against the Dragons last round without, arguably, not arguably, they're three best players. So that's Jake Trbojevic, Tom Trbojevic, and Daly Cherry. And so I think you throw those three back into the mix, and it could be a very, very poor night there for the West Tigers. 7:35 p.m. at Suncorp Stadium, the Penrith Panthers take on the Brisbane Broncos. This game was really close when these two teams met earlier this year. But I am going to go ahead and tip the Panthers here. With Jerome Luai back, I think the Panthers win without a shadow of a doubt. But if Jerome Luai was out, I'd probably be leaning maybe towards an upset for the Broncos. I think the Broncos are definitely improving, and they've definitely shown huge signs of improvement in recent weeks. But a side that's led around by Jerome Luai is just very dangerous, and this Panthers side sits second on the ladder. They've looked great all year, with or without someone like Jerome Luai and Nathan Cleary. They have struggled at games, but I think as soon as you add one of those two back into the mix, you will see the best come out of the Penrith Panthers. So I've got the Panthers there by 13 plus. Sunday at Seabus Super Stadium at 1:50 p.m. The home team is the St. George Illawarra Dragons. They're taking on the Gold Coast Titans, guys. In this one, I do like the Titans. They're the favourites, and I think that's, probably a little bit unfair. The Dragons do have some massive ins and outs due to all their suspensions due to the COVID party, but the Titans didn't look their best against the Eels. With that being said, Greg Marzhew returns for the Titans. I thought he looked really, really good in the few games that he has played so far this year. Toby Sexton debuts, and I've heard really, really great things about this kid, so that could be a massive boost there for the Titans. Mitch Rain comes back in at hooker. He'll obviously be very, very hungry to press his case for a new contract somewhere else in the NRL next year. Unlikely that he'll be remaining at the Titans. So they do have some significant ins there for the Gold Coast Titans. The Dragons do sit ahead of them on the ladder, and I probably would say the Dragons have been the better team so far this year, but currently, within the last month, I'd probably say the Titans have been a better football side. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and tip my team, the Gold Coast Titans, who I did tip last week, and we got smashed by the Eels. Bulldogs, 4 p.m. at Seabus Super Stadium, take on the Cronulla Sharks. I think the Doggies are showing signs of improvement, but I think the Sharks will be too much for them there. The Sharks are just a bit more of a classier unit. They'll be without Aiden Tolman, but I don't think that's too much of a significant change there for them. So I am looking forward to this game, but I do see the Doggies probably struggling a little bit against someone like the Sharks. The Sharks are a side that are inside the top 8, which I think would shock a lot of people. I was even surprised checking at them. I probably thought they'd be around the 9th, 10th area, but they went through that really nice patch where they won 5 in a row, and it looks like they're starting to rediscover that form. But that wraps up my round 19, NRL tips. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you guys next week with my round 20 tips. Cheers.